morning. Hi everyone, thank you all for coming today. Today will be our workshop facilitated discussion on microaggressions and the effects of microaggressions in higher education, school institutions, communities, all sorts of things. And so my name is Ariella Robbins, and I'm the training manager for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I will be facilitating today with the great Dr. Cheryl Bowen, who is trying to figure out our PowerPoint, but she'll introduce herself as well.
So I teach in the Department of Communication. It's still not there. I do not understand this at all. Any clues for you smart tech people on a Mac? Why can't they do this universally? Plug and play. So you'll see everything, so that's fine, or whatever. All right, we'll just punt. I don't think I had anything inappropriate up there in the slides.
Hopefully not.
Oh my goodness. It'll remind me where I'm going. All right, so good morning, good morning. I teach in the communication department, and I have the good fortune to be the faculty director of the Intergroup Dialogue program, IDR. You may have heard of it. We certainly encourage you to look into it if you are like what you hear today and want to engage in some more conversations. You'll see all the slides here. That's so great. You know where we're going. We may use them, we may not, right? So that is wonderful. Why are you here? You have to be? Have to go to a session? Yes, be honest. Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it. Anybody have a particular reason that they're interested in microaggressions that they'd like to share? Yeah.
It's like something I don't really know about, so I don't really know.
You've heard the term, don't really know much about it. Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. Fair. Okay. How about others? Anybody else? Anybody think of an example of a microaggression right off the bat? When you hear the word microaggression, what do you think? Anybody have one?
Are you unsure?
So when a white person says to a black person, "Wow, you sound white."
Okay, all right. That's an example. All right. You can see here, let me bring it up a little bit bigger, okay, what we're talking about, or when somebody says to a person who appears to be Asian, where are you from? Brooklyn, wherever you're from, whatever. These are roughly, or broadly speaking, this is Darren Sue, who is a professor that has written, I believe, is he at Columbia? I think so. Who's written a lot on microaggressions, done a lot of research on microaggressions, really helpful stuff. It's S-U-E is his last name. And he says, microaggressions, I broke it out for you, the everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults. Okay? They can be intentional or unintentional. They can communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages that target people based solely on their marginalized or non-dominant group membership. Okay? Right? So this is the working definition that we're going to use when we get to it, when we get to this part. I'll put it back up on there. But that's really what we're going to use as, that's what a microaggression is that we're really talking about. We've probably been microaggressed. We probably have done microaggressions, microaggressed other people. And we want to explore some of that today, talk about what they are, some of the taken for granted assumptions and biases that are maybe behind these statements that we think mean nothing, and talk a little bit about those, okay? All right. Do we want to do introductions real quickly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So really quick, there's quite a few of you in here, but if we could just have an idea of who is in the room. So we just asked you to say your name and your year. And so we'll start with this person right here, if you don't mind.
I'm Ann. I'm final semester graduate student.
Thank you.
I'm Matt, freshman.
Louis, I'm a freshman.
Serena, I'm a freshman.
I'm Colin, I'm a freshman.
Hi, I'm Elisa. I'm a sophomore with student health.
Keith, this is Edward, he's student involvement fund.
Lenny, I'm a freshman.
Matt, I'm a freshman.
I'm Catherine, I'm a freshman.
I'm Brian, I'm a freshman.
I'm Joseph, I'm a freshman.
I'm Julia, I'm a freshman. I'm Paige, I'm a freshman.
I'm Michael, I'm a freshman.
I'm Anthony, I'm a freshman.
I'm Megan, I'm a senior.
I'm Brendan, I'm a sophomore.
Morning, I'm Michelle, I wrote the case this year. I'm Paul, I'm a freshman. I'm Skilly, I'm a freshman.
I'm Anthony, I'm a freshman.
Olivia, I'm a freshman.
I'm a freshman.
I'm Paige. I'm Emily, I'm a freshman. I'm Kylie, I'm a senior. I'm Lauren, I'm a senior. I'm Katie, I'm a sophomore. I'm Stephanie, I'm a sophomore. I'm Amy, I'm a freshman. Skilly, I work in the office of I'm Michelle, I'm a sophomore. I'm Kia, I'm a sophomore. I'm Taylor, I'm a junior. I'm Erica, I'm a freshman.
I'm Daniel, I'm a freshman.
Gabriella, support that. I'm Kelly, I work in residence life.
And I'm Joey, also working as this life.
Thank you. And our one person who just walked in.
Kimmy, I'm a senior.
Senior. Okay, so do we notice any trends clearly going on in the room, right? That there's a good bunch of us who are first year students, so thank you all for coming and getting to learn maybe about a topic that you've maybe heard about, but maybe don't know so much about in detail. So this will be a great first kind of dip your toe in the water experience of what microaggressions are and how they impact people. Want to do our community guidelines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if this will work. There we go. Great. Okay, so often when we have conversations like this where maybe we're unsure, maybe we're afraid of offending somebody because we just don't know, or some of you expressed, or maybe we're thinking that, but when we have these conversations, we like to sort of establish some guidelines or what we call community agreements that we're going to ask you to say you subscribe to, and we'll practice as we're in here. These are not always comfortable topics, right? It's hard to realize that you've been saying something that you thought was complimentary for many years, and it turns out that it's really insulting, you know? And there are ways, and we're going to show you what do you do with that if you find out that you've done one of those. I certainly have done that too. So we like to create not what we call only safe spaces where we can explore some of these mistakes that we've made or feelings that we've had about being microaggressed, but also to be brave, to be able to work through that and do something differently when we leave this room, okay? So in that vein, and I really do apologize about the slides, we're going to speak one person at a time. There are a lot of us. Be aware of the nonverbal communication, your facial expressions, even your posture, can communicate your attitude and your feelings about what's going on, and you want to just be aware and mindful of those. Remaining present, think of this as a class, we stay off of our cell phones, we appreciate that. Try to be present and listen to what is going on in the room. That's one way of showing respect to other people. All of these are really. If we do go around in some way, you always have the right to pass. You don't have something, can't kind of put your words together at that moment, you always have the right to take a pass. Nobody's going to force you to do that. However, we are going to ask you to lean into discomfort a little bit. There's a really important teaching that suggests if we're all very, very comfortable, la-di-da, go on business as usual, we're not going to question these things, right? And we don't want to make it, feeling dangerous and unsafe, but there's this fine line that we call the learning edge, when we're like, that doesn't sit right with me, or I wonder how she feels about that, or I wonder how he feels about that. Those learning edges are the opportunities that we have to really expand our thinking and our actions. And we have to lean into that discomfort of saying, this doesn't sit right, right? You have to decide also, is it something that you're going to verbalize in the group, or is it something that you're just going to ponder maybe, and maybe come back to it another time. But we encourage you to do that. If there are disagreements, You know this one, right? You're talking about argument in your first year classes for our first year students. We challenge the idea, not the person, okay? We challenge the idea. We can't be responsible for the biases and the judgments that we sort of have inherited from our families, from our schools, from the media. But once we're made aware of them, then we have the responsibility to figure out what are we going to do with them. And we all have biases, so I want to get that out of the way. We have biases for and against, right? We ask you to speak from the I perspective, okay? Even if you identify strongly with a particular cultural or identity group, you are not the representative of that group. Nobody is asking you to do that. You can't speak for all people. I can't speak for all women, etc. That kind of thing. So we want you to speak from your experience, the I perspective. Do ask, don't tell is a Sherry Bowen original. You may get the humor in that. Don't ask, don't tell. No, do ask, don't tell. So we don't say, well, you know, first year students believe that, blah, 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 right? I'm not going to tell you what you believe, but I can say, as a first year student, I can ask a question. Do you feel a particular way? So we want to ask questions. How many people were at the talk last night? Right? A number of us were at the talk. She was amazing, by the way. I did see it being recorded, and I would encourage you to watch it. If you want to be inspired, I found her really warm, really inspiring, and she talked about listening, and she talked about asking questions, and she talked about listening to people's stories, right? People don't, well, most of us don't volunteer our stories without being asked, right? So how are we going to be open and ask people, explain this to me? You know, can you tell me a little bit about? So that's part of the asking questions, not making assumptions, or telling people what they think. We don't know what other people think. Monitor your airtime. If you're somebody that talks a lot, you might want to step back and make sure that other people have a chance to speak. And if you're somebody that is a little less outgoing, perhaps, you may want to lean into that discomfort and move forward and find your voice, similar to how Cara was talking about last night and how she found herself with the mic in a group, and that started her life trajectory, really. And confidentiality. We like to say what's learned here leaves here. When we talk about microaggressions and what they mean and that kind of thing, that can leave here. We do want you to share the information. However, we want you to protect the confidentiality of particular stories that may be told. So if you're talking about your roommate, and I happen to know who your roommate is, we're not going to go back to the roommate and say, you know what so-and-so said about... No. So to protect what people might say in this safe space, in this brave space. Okay? Make sense? Have you done this in other circles? Yes? Hopefully you're doing it in more. We have found, many of us in the room have found that when we take a moment to either generate these rules as a class, as a group, or if we just take a moment and bookmark it and say, this is what we're creating. When we come into this space, we're going to operate with these. We find that it can help make a more productive conversation, rather than one where people are feeling like they're being attacked or they're being victimized, or that people feel empowered to say really hurtful things that really should not be said if you're being respectful. Okay? So I know this is not universal, but in this particular context, a thumbs up means yes. So if you agree to abide by the ground rules, would you please give me a thumbs up? All right. Any questions about this, by the way? No? Okay, no questions. All right, great. The video?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to try, for the technologically challenged person, to try to get the video going. Okay? Get back here. Let's see if it'll work from here. No, it's not going to work. Yeah, maybe it'll work. Okay. You may have seen this one. We thought it was a good one. Okay, nope, we're not playing on TV. Nope, that's not working. Okay. I do? Why? Usually you don't. Usually you just go. I keep doing it. It's not closing. I just want this, please. Okay, you heard it plain.
They would like say.
So like, you just said something that offended me, so I feel like I should speak up.
Because they're micro, because they're,
Sorry. Okay. Content for grown-ups? That sounds good. I'm just going to leave it loud. I apologize.
oh, you're so pretty for a black girl. Oh, she has a Jew nose.
Oh, your hair would look so good if it was straight.
Jews are so cheap. Why are you so cheap?
Do you speak good English?
How are you an Iraqi Jew?
I think the person saying microaggression kind of doesn't really think about it.
This person who said it was my friend, and like I was astonished they would like say something like that.
You don't want to make a big deal about it, but then it's also like, you just said something that offended me, so I feel like I should speak up.
Because they're micro, because they're very subtle, they're small, you feel like you don't have a reason to be upset. You're overreacting, and people even can make you feel that way when you bring it up. They're like, oh, you can't take a joke.
You're making too big of a deal of this. Why are you overreacting?
Don't take it so seriously. It was just a joke. Chill out. Say like, oh no, I actually love black people. I love people of color. Like, they try to just minimize the situation.
If someone feels hurt by a microaggression, it shouldn't just be pushed to the side.
It definitely has negative impacts and like leads to people disliking who they actually are. Those kinds of subtle offensive comments can build up over time, and they can have like a deep psychological effect, and you know, they can make you feel bad and they can make you doubt yourself.
We try to just use jokes to like make things less awkward or like ease social experiences, but it is important because you need to like be aware of what you're saying and like who you're speaking to.
Think of what you say and how it can affect the person you're saying it to.
So we wanted to show that video because it's a pretty straightforward conversation about microaggressions and some of the experiences that folks have had. So just thoughts, reactions to what was said, what you heard. Was there anything specifically that maybe hit home for you in this video?
So one that you remember flashing up there?
I was surprised by the frequency. It said that people of color had on average experienced microaggression 200 times in the past 90 days, which is like about a little over each day, which is a lot. So that was definitely surprising.
The amount. So it's something that for some people don't have to think about, right? For some people, your identity may not be microaggressed as much as others. Your identities. Other thoughts, other things from the video.
I think for me, the whole, like, it's a joke. Sorry. It's a joke, like, don't get so offended. I feel like I encounter that frequently and I never know how to respond. Because how do you argue with, like, humor and a joke? And like, it's just a joke, it's not serious. Like, it's always something that I've had difficulty, like, responding to.
Yeah. A joke for who?
Right.
At whose expense? Right. Absolutely. That's a struggle, and that's something that we'll think about in terms of responding, especially because depending on who the person may be, or the circumstance, or the relationship, your response may be a little bit different. So that's something we'll think about for sure.
So other kinds of responses that you may have, we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about those. This is all predicated on the notion that we carry lots of different social and cultural identities, right, at any given time. What are some of them? What are some of those cultural and social identities that we carry? We can name them.
Race.
Okay, race. What else?
maybe region, your position in the world where you are. Those may affect how you, they're going to affect how you interact with folks, right? The way you
Body
see
size, tallness, shortness, you know, whether you're a thick person or a thin person. There are lots of things. I have a diagram. I don't want to overload you with information today, but there are many different ways that we differ from one another. The notion with microaggressions is that when we talk about that thing that's marginalized or non-dominant group membership, is those things that get usually picked out, right? So the dominant, we typically use in a college setting or a Villanova setting, might be what? What would some of those dominant characteristics be? Identities, they're not characteristics, but social identity. Religion, what's the dominant here? Okay, Catholic, all right. Is white male the norm for race and gender? Even though there's more women go here, right? But we use that as the norm of the way to be and the way to act, often in the classroom space or in a professional space, is often predicated on the norm of white, middle-class, male behavior and communication style, right? And so the microaggressions often are what isn't that, okay? All right? That doesn't mean to say that you can't microaggress somebody in a dominant group, but more often we're talking about the non-dominant groups. Does that make sense? Do you want to add anything to that, Ariel?
Yeah, and I was just going to actually move this slide down really quick. And when thinking about microaggressions, they're broken down a little bit, and we share stuff. We won't give you too much information, but they're come in a variety of degrees, right? And so with you may have a micro insult, which is really someone who that kind of notion of, oh, it was just a joke, right? Don't take it so personally. I didn't mean it that way. So someone who clearly seems like very well intentioned, but maybe didn't quite understand that what they said was offensive. Then you also have a micro-invalidation, so maybe hearing something along the lines of, I don't see race. Right? That's something that for some people is going to be a microaggression, because if you don't see my race, then you don't see many of the experiences that I have to deal with based on my race. Which is a problem, because that alone essentially really determines how it is that I navigate and interact with people oftentimes, because of how people perceive me based on that. And then also with the micro assault. And so those are going to be the more intentional things like actual name calling, racial slurs, different things like that, where people are intentionally trying to hurt you. And so all those, when you break it down, really do become based on those social identities that you all named, whether it be your race, your gender, religion, socioeconomic status, so on and so forth. People are perceiving you in a certain way, and their response and behavior and language that they use towards you may be based on those things.
So we've given you, right?
Yep.
We've given you, everybody has Post-it notes? Okay? So this is participation time. Hopefully you're good students and have pens to do. And what you want to do is just generate at least one, you can do more than one, to your microaggressions that you've experienced, that you've done, or that you've heard. Okay? So take a few moments to generate some of those on your sticky note.
And if you're struggling to think of a microaggression, maybe you can think about why that is and what privilege you have that allow you to maybe not really identify